What is happening, people? I hope everyone is well. Welcome back to my channel. Today we have a heavily requested tier list for you. We have got a tier list on movie villains. Below me I have 30 of the most iconic movie villains, antagonists of all time, according to many websites which I researched. I don't know how they got this info, but it is what it is. If your favorite villain isn't on here, I apologize. I might do a part 2. I couldn't fit every villain ever on this list, but I highly doubt your favorite won't be. These 30 are some of the most menacing, iconic villains of all time, and we're going to separate them into 4 tiers. We have an S tier, an A tier, a B tier, and a C tier. S tier for the top of the top, the best of the best. I'm going to try and only put a maximum of 3 to 5 villains in that list. And also, if your favorite villain is at C tier, it doesn't mean I think they're a bad villain or a bad character. It just means I don't think they're up to the scratch as others. And this is a list on 30 of the most iconic villains and antagonists ever. None of these villains are bad villains. I don't think I looked through before, I don't think any of these are bad characters. I just prefer some than others, and I think some offer more to the story than others as well. So it's important to mention that before we get started. Before we go to the video, feel free to drop a sub if you enjoy it, of course. Feel free to wait until the end, see if you enjoy it or not. And, of course, drop a like as well. And comment on your favourite movie villain, who your favourite movie villain is, and anything that you would change in this tier list as well. I'm going to get started. It should be, known that I completely randomized the villains below me, so I kind of don't know what order. Obviously, I know who the villains are, but I don't know what order they're going to come up, so I couldn't plan it out or anything like that. So without further ado, we are going to get started, and our first villain is the Alien, Xenomorph. Okay. This is a difficult one. I think, in terms of iconic, the Alien is right up there. Some of the most suspenseful sequences in horror history, some of the most iconic sequences in horror history, and the whole build of the Alien, especially in the late 70s, is just genius, and it works in such an efficient way in which you kind of have this suspense and you don't know when it's going to pop out, and when it does, it's incredibly brutal. I think Alien, I feel like a lot of people might put it lower. I might actually put it in the A tier. Again, maybe it's an internal bias because Alien is one of my favourite films, but I think as a villain and as a menacing creature who you want to avoid and who has this control over you and produces this anxiety-like feel, Alien's right up there. He might be the lower end of A tier, we will organise them after, but I think he's right up there. Calvin Candy. Calvin Candy's next. Calvin Candy from Django. Ruthless. Brutal, incredibly well written, as what we come to see from a lot of Quentin Tarantino films. Is the dialogue is just there with his antagonist, and it works in a very efficient way in terms of getting out the brutal nature. Calvin Candy, especially with Leonardo DiCaprio's portrayal of him in general, he is going to be high up the list. I might be lower on him than some people. I think there's another Tarantino villain in this tier list who you will see who will be a bit higher. I would probably put him the very, very high end of B tier for now. Maybe go to low A tier in the future, in later on down the line. Alex DeLarge. Alex DeLarge is an interesting one because he is the protagonist of The Clockwork Orange, but the villain. He's more of a character study, and he is a representation of society, and the studies of institutionalization it shows in The Clockwork Orange. I think as a villain, it's very, very hard to judge this because yes, you hate him, but he's also the main character on show, and I don't know where to put him. I don't know where to put you. I'm going to put him in B tier for now. Maybe the mid to lower end of B tier as a villain. As a character, he might be higher, even though he is horrible. And we know that, and he is a disgusting human, and he represents everything wrong with society at that point in time, or now even. As a movie villain? I don't know. I'm going to put him there for now. Palpatine is next, Emperor Palpatine. This man is so ugly. He looks like an earthworm. But anyway, we'll carry on. Emperor Palpatine is a high-up villain. I think the amount of power he has cannot be ignored, and also he is that kind of menacing presence when he's on show as well. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, but I will be sure to admit that he is an incredibly iconic villain, and something that with a lot of lore and a lot of story behind him as well. I think that Palpatine is not the best Star Wars villain. I'm sure we'll get onto that in the future. I'm sure you know who that is by now anyway. I think I'd put Palpatine at A, and I'd probably put him just a bit higher than Alien, to be honest. Just a bit higher than Alien. A tier. I know who this is, I can tell by the hair. It's Anton Chigurh. Ladies and gentlemen, we have our first S tier. There is no doubt in my mind that Anton Chigurh is an S tier villain. I have never seen a film have so many menacing sequences as him. When his presence is just shown, and Javier Bardem's performance is one of my favourite of all time. You think of the sequences, you think of the coin toss scene. You know, as a scene with purely dialogue ever given me that much anxiety? I don't know. You think of the motel sequence, you think of the sequence in the hotel with Woody Harrelson as well. You think of the chase sequence behind the cars. Not only is he menacing, not only is he scary, not only does he have a terrible haircut, but he also is just ruthless, brutal, and ends in a really unique way. I won't spoil the ending of No Country for Old Men. If you haven't watched it, it's one of my favourite thrillers ever, and it did come out in 2007, so realistically I could spoil it if I wanted to, but I'll hold back. Anton Chigurh is our first S tier villain. Next. Chucky. I'm going to put Chucky at C tier. I think Chucky is a good villain. I think Chucky is iconic, and I think the whole creation of this doll that kills whatever is iconic, and I think he offers his film. Well, the films of Chucky are stupid, but they have this cult following, which I completely understand. But Chucky for me doesn't really offer that much as a villain. I understand the concept, but I never really feel anxious or scared. But I do think for the time when he first came out, I think it was probably early 80s. Maybe I could be a little bit off, but I think he's a very solid villain. I think Chucky deserves to be on this list, but I wouldn't have him higher than C tier, personally. Anyway, I'm sure I can imagine a lot of you would. Agent Smith. Okay. A villain that offers a lot. There is a lot of crazy fight sequences in The Matrix with Agent Smith, and I think Hugo Weaving does a really, really good job. But I'm not that high on him as a villain, to be honest. I think you could replace a lot. I think a lot of it is Hugo Weaving's performance rather than the writing of the villain itself. I'm going to put him at low end of B tier. Still a great villain. Still deserves to be on this list, but low end of B tier. Who do we have next? Harry Powell. The originator of Love and Hate on the Knuckles. One of the most iconic villains of all time. One of the most menacing villains of all time. If you haven't seen it, is from Night of the Hunter, Charles Lawton's one and only film, the kind of thriller crime classic. I think it came out in 1955, if I'm not mistaken. Very menacing, incredible dialogue, well-written character. He belongs in this A tier spot. I'd probably put him just ahead of Alien, I think. Norman Stansfield is next. Gary Oldman's Norman Stansfield from, of course, Leon the Professional. I love Gary Oldman's performance. Do I think that the character is elevated by an incredible Gary Oldman performance? Yes, but I think that is the case for a lot of the villains on this list. Norman Stansfield is up there, though. He is an incredible villain that offers a very, very menacing role. I don't know if he offers as much. If they cut him out of the story and they had another villain in, do I think they could have done a similar job? Yes, but I do think he's so memorable. There are so many iconic sequences of him in the bathroom scene, but again, I think Gary Oldman's one. I would argue his best ever performance. I'm going to put him high end of B tier, the highest end of B tier. He might edge into A tier when we change things up a little bit. Who have we got here? Hannibal Lecter. Anthony Hopkins, Hannibal Lecter. Very, very similar to Anton Chigurh. Very menacing, very scary, and incredibly well elevated by Anthony Hopkins' performance, but an incredibly well written character in general. I will say that the main antagonist in Silence of the Lambs isn't here, Buffalo Bill, because Hannibal Lecter is the most popular one, and he stretches across as a character from so many films, and of course the TV series. We're going to be focusing on the Anthony Hopkins Silence of the Lambs one in particular. Well, not just Silence of the Lambs, but the Anthony Hopkins version of him. He's right there, top end of A tier. I don't know if I'd go C tier, I'll be honest, but he's right there for me, top end of A tier. Who's this? Hans Landa. Now this is the Tarantino villain I would probably have higher than Calvin Candy. I'm going to give it to right away. I'd have him at A tier. Incredibly brutal, very much an enemy, horrible to watch, a horrible human being, incredibly well elevated by Christoph Waltz's supporting Oscar-winning performance, which I believe he got for this role as well. He has to be up there. Brutal, menacing, scary, powerful. I put him even higher than Alien. Very, very high. An incredible villain. Who have we got next? Joker. The Joker. Heath Ledger's Joker, specifically. I'm not going to fall into the trap of saying this guy's the best villain ever, but I am going to say he's S tier. I think the Joker as a villain is everything you need from a superhero film. And I'm not a huge fan of superhero films, but I definitely am of The Dark Knight in particular. I think it's an amazing film. I really, really do. And I think Heath Ledger's Joker was just phenomenal. I truly, truly do. I think he was the perfect antagonist to the Batman. And obviously, we across social media, you're going to see this all the time. You're going to see the sequence when they're in the interview room in the station, police station, and it's just brilliant. They work with each other so well. Heath Ledger's unbelievable performance, gone way too soon. Heath Ledger, an actor, just an incredible actor, and I just think it deserves to be in the S tier category. I truly, truly do. I think there isn't many things that can really combat the chemistry, the protagonist and antagonist chemistry between Batman and the Joker, and I think Heath Ledger's Joker is right up there. I truly do. I think menacing, scary, so fun to watch as well due to Heath Ledger. I think he's right up there in the S tier. I think I do. And this is a black box, so I am going to, yes, it is. Hal. Doesn't want to Space Odyssey. I am going to try and take out all my internal bias here for Stanley Kubrick, my favourite director, but I think it's insane how much emotion this man put into the polar opposites of a light, of a robot, and one of the best deeply emotional enemies that has been portrayed, and it's represented by a red dot. I think he's right up there. I'm going to put him A tier. Extremely iconic. A tier is getting stacked, I know. Hopefully there's not loads more. Leatherface. I love the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's one of my favourite films, the first one. I think it's brutal, disgusting, incredible. Leatherface as a villain is a really interesting one because I think he has a really interesting origin, but I also think it's the family as well. Even though the sequences are very menacing and incredibly brutal, and the whole first film has this disgusting, gritty, beautiful feel, yet just revolting at the same time, and I think that is due to Leatherface himself, but I think that the family is the main absorber, and I do think he's an incredible villain, so he's going to be high up there. But I'm going to be honest, I am a huge fan of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I think they could have done similar with a different character in his space. But he's definitely right up there. He's going to be the highest end of B tier for me. The highest end of B tier. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Again, we might make changes at the end. That might be too long. Jack Torrance. Oh dear. Some Kubrick bias might come in here, but I don't care. Jack Torrance, S tier villain. He is the perfect antagonist. He truly is the perfect antagonist. Well, protagonist, whatever you want to say it. But he truly is the perfect villain in my eyes. He offers so much to the story. He is a representation of so much what goes on. He is brutal. He's relentless. He is scary. Backed by one of Jack Nicholson's best performances. I'm not sure I'd say it was his number one, but I'd say up there. Maybe One Flew Over might be higher. But I think Jack Torrance as a villain, as an antagonist in The Shining, is a perfect role. And I think he's right up there. Maybe we change to higher A tier. Yeah, you know what? As a villain, I'm actually going to go like this. I'm going to go like that. I think that works out nicer. But I think Jack Torrance is right there. I think Hannibal Lecter deserves to be higher than him as a pure villain. John Doe is next. Okay. Kevin Spacey, what a lovely man. He's not. But John Doe, very, very good villain. Offers a lot. I think the final sequence in 7, I don't like as much as some people. I know people think it's like one of the favourite endings ever. I personally don't, but I think it's very, very good. He only has a few sequences, and he does have this kind of monotone expression, which is unnerving, especially in the car sequence on the way to the whatever it's called at the end. And the way he acts towards Brad Pitt's character is very unnerving, and it's a very good performance of Kevin Spacey. I'd probably put it in B tier though. To be honest, I won't have it as high as many people. I'd probably put it around there as a villain. Very, very good though. And as I said before, it's, being B tier in this category, in this tier list, being anywhere in this list is great because you're a very good villain to begin with. Who's this? Is that Gollum's little head? It's Gollum's head. He is obviously a villain, but he's also kind of not. But he is, one of the main antagonists from the story, and he has such a massive impact to the Lord of the Rings story in general. He deserves to be right up there. His character is so phenomenally well written. Obviously, J.R. Tolkien can be thanked for that. But especially in the films as well, the portrayal of him in Lord of the Rings is perfect. Andy Serkis, tremendous, completely tremendous. Transformed himself for the role. How did he look like that? He must have lost so much weight. I know, bad joke. But I will say that he is a very, 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 very high-tier villain. And you get so much from him. You don't just get this kind of relentless sense of his urge for the ring, but you also get his emotive side, his two sides, his kind of human hobbit side, his emotional side, and you understand what he is striving for is the main thing here. I think it's most important. He's going high. He's going like that. High end of A tier. High end of A tier. Voldemort. I don't... Honestly, guys, like, you might get annoyed at me for this. He might go S tier. Like, I'm not even... I know he got beat by a child, or like, not a child, like a 17, 18-year-old Harry Potter, but if you're talking menacing, if you're talking origins, if you're talking a great backstory, if you are talking in general a phenomenal villain in a franchise which is very consistent, and every time he is on the screen, it gives you goosebumps, it is unnerving, he has a brilliant following, he's backed by a Ralph Fiennes, one of Ralph Fiennes' best performances, he might go A tier, and that's not to say he's a better character, important here. This isn't to say he's a better character than a lot of these on this list, but I think he might be a better villain. He's going S tier. I'm sorry. I know that might be wild to you. I know. But he's going right there. And again, this is just preference. This is just my preference on what I prefer. But I think Voldemort is right there as one of the greatest villains of all time. I really, really do. And again, I know he got beat by a child. I know. But I'm sticking to this. I'm sticking to it. Okay. Thank you. Sauron. A tier. Sauron can go A tier. Great villain. We don't get a lot from him. One of my favourites because of Lord of the Rings. In fact, no, I'm going to put Sauron in B tier. He has such a thrilling and enthralling presence, which isn't often always known. You tend to kind of look at, especially in the other films, Saruman and then the Gollum as the main villain. I think what I would probably do is, if I'm going to stick to a rule of putting like one per franchise in each spot, I think Gollum is a better villain, a better character, a better villain than Sauron. But I think some of the sequences Sauron has, especially in the extended versions, puts him the highest end of B tier. The highest end of B tier. And this is, an ultimate Lord of the Rings fan talking. I don't know. I'll probably put Gollum a little higher. Annie Wilkes is next, from Misery. Very, very menacing, very unnerving, very scary. I'm going the higher end of B tier again. Chucky is a bit lonely down there in C tier. There's so many great villains on this list. I'm sorry, I'm going to put Agent Smith in C tier. No. Yeah, Annie Wilkes, incredible, great villain. Really, really liked her performance with James Caan was incredible. Great film. And I think, again, a really well-written Stephen King villain. What a surprise. Green Goblin is next. Green Goblin. A tier. Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. Very, very good. Of course, elevated by an incredibly well-backed Willem Dafoe performance, of course. But I think he's right there. I think he's right there. I think I think Green Goblin is tremendous as a villain. I just think he's brilliant. I really... maybe the high end of B tier. I've got the high end of B tier. I think he's right there, but I might change to the low end of A tier in the future. Mike Myers. In terms of a villain and how iconic he is, I don't know if he can go lower than A tier. I think he's more iconic than Leatherface, obviously due to how many more films there is. Is there more films? I think there is. But in terms of portrayal of Mike Myers, I didn't like the Mike Myers we got in Halloween Ends at all. I did like him in Halloween 2018, and I also didn't like him in Halloween... the 2021 version, I can't remember what it's called, but I think as a villain, I think he's right there. I think he's one of the most iconic, memorable, and threatening horror movie villains of all time. And I also think The Mask is creepy as well. So, bottom of A tier. We have another S tier, folks. We have another S tier. It's Nurse Ratched. Where is she? That's not her. Yeah. Nurse Ratched, S tier. So menacing. a stunning display of psychology and the way we treat society, where we treat people within society, institutionalization within the film. I think Nurse Ratched is right there. I think it was a tremendous performance. I think she is horrible. I think you hate her. I think she is unnerving. I think she is one of the greatest villains of all time, or at least that I have seen in film anyway. I really, really do. Let's continue. Darth Vader. Now, I am not a huge Star Wars fan, as I said before, but there is only so kind of far you can go without hearing that Darth Vader is just one of the best villains of all time, and he is that iconic. He does have that many good moments. You think about sort of the duels, you think about this sequence right here, you think about the end of Empire Strikes Back. I can't not have him S tier. I can't. Let's order this S tier a little bit. So we'll go like that. Probably like that. Yeah, that looks good to me. But yeah, I think Darth Vader. I would like to like be, you know, contrarian and put him at A tier, but I just can't. He's too iconic. Thanos. Now I'm going to say something here. As a non-MCU fan, I think Thanos is was one of the best things about the films. I think, especially in Infinity War, when we didn't expect it to happen in the end, when he kind of won. But I think Josh Brolin as Thanos is fantastic. I think Thanos is a really, really good villain. I think he's menacing. He offers a lot. I think that he is powerful, which is very, very important in terms of being a good villain. I know you could argue Voldemort. I know Voldemort, let's be fair, Voldemort's very fucking powerful. He did get beat by a teenager, yes, but he's very powerful. I would probably put Thanos... We'll move that. I'd put Thanos, like, there. Thanos is really, really good. Yeah, like that. Okay. Norman Bates as a villain. Norman Bates. Okay. Norman Bates. Very, very high. Very high. One of my all-time favourite kind of plot twists in cinema. The stare at the end. You wouldn't be able to find a list of iconic horror movie sequences without finding at least one or two scenes of Norman Bates in his dress, or whatever he might be doing in this final sequence here. I think that Norman Bates is really, really high. I think he's one of the most iconic villains ever. He has one of the most iconic faces ever. It's got to be an A tier. It has to be. I'd probably put him around here, I would say. Around here. Who have we got next? Tyler Durden. Yeah, this is kind of a weird one because I guess he's the villain, he is the antagonist, but I'll be honest, as a villain, he'd probably go C tier. As a villain, I guess he is the villain of masculinity. He'd go C tier. I might put Agent Smith down. I don't love Agent Smith, to be honest, as a villain. Tyler Durden as villain, go B tier. No, as a villain. Yeah, we'll go like that. Jaws, the shark, C tier. Okay, I know, like, I'm the peak of hypocrisy right now because I said that Alien, for example, is so iconic that you can't. Jaws is incredibly iconic. I think, it was the birth of the summer blockbuster. It's an incredibly iconic film. It's a brilliant film. It's a tremendous watch that had people in awe at the horror, especially, even now, there's still some sequences which are quite scary, and I think that the suspense is there where it doesn't really show Jaws until the very end, but I think as a shark, I don't know, man. Like, it's higher than Chucky, probably, but he's not like, the highest tier of villain. Well, he is, because he's in this list, but it's not that good. If that makes sense. It's not. But he also is. Oh, do I put him B tier? I'm going to leave him there. Pennywise, iconic look to him. I would have preferred, I've always said this, I would prefer if Pennywise was like, instead of being this demon, just a creepy man in a clown costume. I don't know if everyone remembers the clown pandemic that happened like 2016, 15, whatever it was. If it was like that, it would have been a lot scarier. But I think Pennywise deserves to be on this list. I'd put him like kind of the lower end. In fact, what's more iconic? Jaws. I'm putting Pennywise bottom. I really, really am. I'm putting Pennywise bottom. I'm putting Jaws. Jaws is a shot, but he deserves to be there. Finally, we have Hans Gruber, Alan Rickman. I think that this is one of those where it's very much elevated by Alan Rickman's performance. I don't think he's that great a villain. I think he's very menacing, again, performance, but I don't think he offers that much in terms of overall stakes and kind of the vengeance plot or whatever it might be. I'm going to go kind of the lower end of it will be B tier, but the lower end. This is what we're working with. Do I need to switch anything? Probably. No. I'm pretty happy with that. A tier, Mike Myers. Yeah. Do you know what? I'm pretty happy. People aren't going to like this. I know they're not, especially Voldemort up there. I'm sorry, Harry Potter buyers. I really like him. I think he's great. But everything else I'm pretty set on, to be honest. I'm pretty happy with this list. I would put Hal higher. And then I'd probably put him over Hans Lander. No, I wouldn't. Probably go like that. No. I'd probably go like that. So Mike Myers, Alien, Thanos, Norman Bates, Hans Lander, Hal. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Feel free. Hit the subscribe button. Hit a like on this video as well. I'm sorry if your favourite villain got put low. I am sorry. This is the list we're currently working with. Let me know what you would change. Let me know what you want me to do in the future. And other than that, I will speak to you all soon.